Now, those people out there in certain family lines that tell you, oh, ascension's easy, just follow this angel or that. Yeah, right. Oh, it's real easy. Just wish it there and you will. Oh, what a trick. What a lie. There are ascension trainings that are being brought out here to get you right down into Phantom Matrix and Wissadek Matrix, and they are teaching you nothing about this stuff. All of these are Stargate connections. Universes, connecting to universes, connecting to bigger universes and bigger universes, expanding all the way up to where they begin to contract again, the final first point of creation, which is perpetual. Now, this is at the top. We'll start at the bottom here. What is the stairway to heaven? You start here. Galactic and Universal Stargate 3. Remember, we're Universal Stargate 3 in our 12 set of 12 Stargates. Right? We're also Galactic Stargate 3. So Earth is a very good place to start if you're going to do ascension. You don't have to, like, you know, jump from Jupiter over to Earth. You can just, like, you're here already. So you can go through Universal Stargate 3, right? You can get from the Galactic into the Universal Stargate system from this planet. Which other planets, you'd actually have to use their planetary system to get into the galactic system to get over to a planet that had a universal gate connection. Earth is one of those planets. That's why it's so valuable, and that's why there's been war here for a very long time over the Templar. Now, you go from Earth, take, you know, here's Earth with Galactic Stargate 3, and when you see GSG, it's Galactic Stargate, and USG is Universal Stargate. And if you see PSG, it's Planetary Stargate. Okay? Then you would have to come here, and through our Density 1 gates, Density 2, Density 3, Density 4, all the way up to Universal Stargate. Now what we're doing is climbing the first part of our little stairway to heaven, which is our first Cathara grid. You'd have to go up to Gate 11. Now you could go up to 12, but the connection, there's a connection point that I'll show you in a minute, where our Universal grid connects into the Eka Cathara grid. They connect at the Eka Gate 3 and our Universal Gate 11. There's also a connection between a lock, which is it's not a gate, it's a space between the two gates. I won't get into locks right now. R12, number 12 up here, connects into the center point in the Eka universe. To get into the Eka universes, you need to go in through 11, because R11 is at the same place as their 3, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. All right, you have to go through the 311 combination to get up to 12, and then you can go back down and into any of their gate systems. So the first thing we'd have to do is go all the way through our densities, which means we'd have to go through from Earth, which is Stargate 3, we'd have to go, normally we'd go through 4, and then 5, and then 6, and then 7, and then 8, and then 9. We'd have to do the whole double pillar this way. There's something that's being awakened now on the planet, so we don't fall into Phantom and Wissadek. It's called the Path of Amareya. It is this path of the 3, 6, 9, over to 11, because you have to make that in the galactic thing, but it's a 3, 6, 9 path. It runs literally the core frequencies of the Eka down through here. It is the safe ascension path, but it's the hardest one to use, but because it requires that you have 12 subharmonics in every strand. If you're a mutated race that came in from one of the Phantom matrices or something, and you don't have a base 12 DNA template, you just can't use those gates. The indigos and the humans incarnate through those gates. Things that look like they're, you know, and people that look like they're human, but they're really not, have a half human and a half something else template. And those guys cannot use the Amareya path. They can use some other paths, and they can have help getting out. That doesn't mean they're gone for. But the Amareya path is going from 3 to 6 to 9, through the 11 hop into 12, and then you can, it's the most rapid path into the Eka worlds. So we go from Earth, we go all the way up. This means if we were going to do this, we'd be going from Earth to D4, the Sun, to D5, a place called Alcyone in the Pleiades, which is actually Terra, the density 2 equivalent of Earth. Then you'd have Sirius B in dimension 6, and you'd have Arcturus in dimension 7, you'd have Orion Mintaka, which is in Orion's belt, in dimension 8. You'd have Andromeda, Meroc Andromeda, in dimension 9. You would have Vega in Lyra, dimension 10. And then it'd finally get up to, this is again in Lyra, but it's called Avion. One of its moons was called Avalon. That moon was hijacked quite a while ago and dragged into Wissadek, and is one of their key pieces of machinery, let's say. So up here is our Stargate 12. It's in Lyra again. It's called Aramatena. Now, there is a piece of that template for the D11 part of it that was hijacked and taken into Wisadek. It became what's called the path of Arimathea, which is the path right into Wisadek matrix. So, we're taking this path, hopefully. Right. So you get this far. It's our 15-dimensional time matrix, our Vecca quadrant 1 here, our primal field in our higher heavens, and quadrant 4, the 12 lower heavens. So this is quadrant 1. When we, remember I told you these were quadrants, right? What determines the number of quadrants is, remember how I said how the primal life force frequencies come in through the Cathara grid, through the whole 15-dimensional matrix, and feed the system through the stargates? Well, this is how they do it. They come in from higher up spaces, and they end up in the inner Eka worlds. And the inner Eka worlds then spiral those, say, those primal life force frequencies down and through the gate systems. And they come in this way. They come in through our primal light field. And this system, it circulates them this way. This one is first. The next one, it gets passed over into this one. Then it gets passed over into parallel. Then it gets passed back over into ours. Each of them rotate in a different direction. We're running current on the, what's called the Particum current, which is a counterclockwise spin. And they're all balanced, not one, counterclockwise or clockwise, neither are better than the other. It is the pattern and the rhythm of the life force breathing system, how frequency, how God consciousness breathes itself through the Stargate systems. So we're, number 1 is over here, that's where it starts, entering our system. And for us to get frequency, here's another reason why I have to wait sometimes to get information off the plates. Because if the frequency releases here, it's time to get the information down there, before our planetary grids will activate to hold that frequency, it has to go through first our light fields, then through the parallel light fields, then parallel Earth gets it first, and then eventually it gets down here where we are. So it takes a while. There's a whole system of energy circulation that's involved with bringing consciousness in. And it's the same system that if you want to get out and go to other places, you follow the same currents that are the currents going back up. It's a circulation system. They come in and they go out through the pattern. So we're down here. This is called Vecca Quadrant 4. This is where our density systems are. And our primal light and sound fields are in Vecca Quadrant 1. So we get through here. We get through gate 11. Finally, we get up here and we're in the Eka. This is what we're aiming for in this lifetime. Once we get there, you're going to have a long vacation. You know, I'm serious. But it's a very nice space. I mean, it's a three-dimensional holographic universe that has 4 density levels, and it's self-contained. Where what's all in here, the 7 higher and 7 lower heavens, they have their own there that are the, let's say, perfected divine blueprint of what these were intended to be once upon a time before black holes happened and things. So you have your Vecca, universal Vecca worlds. They're a part of something bigger. Over here, this is the Akasha. If you notice, this thing here, when you connect gates, forms another Cathara grid on a bigger level. Here's us, here's our primal light field, here's a parallel light field, here's parallel, here's the inner Eka, and here's something else. And it's a Cathara grid, which means it's going to form 3 density levels and a 4th that's shared with something else. So we've built up this way. It's even more interesting. That's the next step. So we go from the inner Eka here over into this matrix. This would be the next level of evolving up into godhood. At this point, however, when you enter the Vecca, the Eka worlds, you have an option. If you work with bioregenesis to get your full original template back, you can take what's called the true path of the middle pillar, which is running from the Ekas to the Ekas, where you don't have to do the Torah duty down in any of the densities unless you choose to. All right? They have their own density levels, but it's a much higher, more peaceful, it's a Christos template. The Eka worlds are the core worlds, and they will always hold the core template, so you will have much more peace there. Once in a while, one of those gets raided. In fact, part of the movement in this time matrix from the Phantom Matrix and Wisadek people is they were allowed in, they were helped to ascend to the Eka, one of their race lines, and then they took over one of the temples there, one of the Stargate temples, and they tried to take down the Eka core, and they're still in there. And on the lowest levels, in here, which is gate 1, would be down here in the Eka, gate 1, 2, 3. Now look at gate 3 is where our gate 11 is, right? There's the 311 connection. But between 3 and 1, there were invasions that actually happened in the Eka worlds, where for the first time the Eoni beings and those in there actually experienced the polarity drama of war and something attacking you no matter how nice you are, that kind of stuff. So they have healed their template pretty much by now, but there are certain areas, even in inner, what we call inner Earth, the version of Earth that is in their universal systems, that they have quarantined off because the corruption that came up through our matrix, I'll show you in a minute where it came from, has invaded the lower gates in their thing. You take down an echo, you have the potentiality of literally ripping all of this into the black hole system, and that just will not be allowed. In the divine blueprint, when it was created, there were certain points that if you hit a certain level of corruption, restart would happen. Divine blueprint would be reset, and that because you would take the whole matrix down. And that's not an option that God seemed to want to care about finding out what that would do. What would I do? Implode myself? If you're God and you're creating all this inside of you, and a part of you forgets it's you and decides to run off and do things like implode all the things you've created, what if it gets to the top? What would that do to you? Good question. I don't think there's an answer to that question. I don't know. From here, I don't know anyway. And I remember going up this stairway to heaven once or twice. Last time was a crawl. When you're crawling out of here and getting there. And there's not even the thought in those levels of, well, what if? You know, could God self-consume itself and implode, then nothing would exist? You don't. That's a three-dimensional thing somehow that happens where that question would even pop up down here. It doesn't pop up there. I don't have an answer to it because I don't think there is an answer to it. But anyway, our stairway goes from Earth through our up to our dimension 11, which are our stargates, up into, we don't have to go through the primal light fields this way, but what happens to get up here? There's actually a set of codes that run here that link, if you drew lines between these things, they link these things together, and if you open the seals here, the primal light field swings in, it merges these universal Huva bodies, or the personal ones, and it takes you, shifts your angle axis into the third axis and takes you in to the Eka. That's what we're doing to build a Merkaba. It's a 12-point Merkaba that has the ability to do 3 axes. It can go in 3 directions rather than just 2 like most Merkabas, so we can get into the Eka. What it does to our light bodies on a personal level is it combines our light field and our 12-dimensional field inside our bodies, brings them together, so we have the ability to transmute, which means turn ourselves into light and sound patterns and turn ourselves back into matter someplace else. So the beginning of that is that activation that we're in the process of doing, where we open up the Manu window around the body. All right, that window, that silver sanctum, that is the vehicle. This is the first part of beginning the process of merging the frequencies in the lower 3 bodies that will allow the rest of this to happen. When we work with Vecca codes, the people who have taken the Dance Floor programs know that we are working directly with the named codes that work here, that run here, that control the density seals. They control literally one density opening to the other. They're the fastest way to get them closed. I mean, to get these 2 things, these 2 grids to come together so you can poof into the center. Anyway, next phase up, I'm not going to spend too much time on each of these. We do cover these in the Dance for Freedom program. Is the Akasha, goes from there up to here, then there's this bigger Thar grid that forms here. From the Akasha, it goes to what's called the Akasha A. The Akasha A, now notice, this is the Akasha. This is one Akasha. This here is this inside that. So we are here, and this is the Akasha here, and that's connected to 3 more. And together, they form another one, right? These are all Stargate connections. You should have seen when I was trying to translate this stuff. I was on yellow paper, yellow line paper, and they were just taping them together and taping them together. Okay, another set connects. And it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, where the thing started out on a tablet and it ended up the whole size of my or my dining room table, which is, what is that, like 8 foot long or something? You know, you had to like roll it up like a scroll by the time it was done. When they're reduced, they're much easier to manage. You know? We also have them singly on the 8.5 by 11 sheets, where you can see, you know, them more clearly. What's important for us right now is to just get to the Eka point. From there, we can learn the rest, but to know that the rest exists, so we know what it is, and we know where we're going once we decide, okay, we're going to ascend. We don't want to fall into a black hole. Okay, what are my options? These are your options. There's massive options. From the Akasha A, we take it up one more step. This is called the Akasha Ea, which is the God core, highest God worlds. Now, you have this akasha here. Oh, by the way, these in the akasha, they're called corridors. We had Vecca quadrants. We have akasha corridors, and when we take it up to the next level, we have the akasha A specters. What are the spectra? Spectra. So these things are called spectra at this level. And we take this up one more. I had a heck of a time putting this together, by the way, to show the angles of everything. So let me see what I did here. Okay, this. See this running this way? This is there. And it connects to another set of all of this. This is the basic divine blueprint of the entire cosmic matrix on this side. Anyway, there's more of these that go elsewhere that connect into these, but this is the pattern, even though it's repeated infinite times all over the place. This is the pattern that's used. Now, this thing here, this big Cathara grid, finally forms around the Akasha Ea level. This is called the Christos, K-R-I-S-T-O-S, and that's originally where the word Christos or any of the Christ words came from. It was spelled with a K, and it was referring to that level. CH Christos is the D12 smaller divine blueprint that comes out of this when you take it all the way down to here, when you're into the dimensional systems. So this is the Christos, and there is again a center point, little Cathara grid that forms in the center of that was actually the one that the bigger ones came out of. And this is called the Crystalla. The Christos and the Crystalla were the original divine masculine, divine feminine of the Holy Trinity. Now, when you put those together, there is a whole formation at the core that forms through the Crystalla grid, which is another little tiny Cathara grid. It's the same one. The Crystalla is the one that runs down through the Eka systems, where the others follow this pattern outside of it. Now, within the Crystalla, there is a series of things called Ruche pillars. They are the first original arcs of light, or pre-light. They're not even light yet. They're arcs of sound frequency. They're called Seors, which is a standing, living pillar of sound sculpture at its best, that anchor through the main gates in the Christos and the Crystalla template. These Ruche pillars are literally the stabilization rods or frequencies of sound that run through and stabilize this entire matrix system. They always run some frequency down through the systems. These are where we're getting from the center point, which is called the Unici point. These pillars run energy through into the Christos and the Crystalla, and then down through the stairway, downward. This is stair-step creation, stepping down. And if you want to get home, you have to step back up, hopefully not crawling. At the center, at the center of the, all right, so here you have the Christos, right? That's right here, okay? This circle around it and this other circle here, these are called primal fields because the whole thing started with one manifestation that was called the Manu, or the Manu point. It is a part of God. It is a part of God consciousness. It is a God force that became first what's known as the void within which all creation took place. In the beginning was the void, and within the void there was the word or the sound, and from the sound and the void came the light. All right, this is where this whole thing began at the top of the stairway to heaven. This is what you have. If you're walking your way up, once you get through the Christos and the Crystalla and the Ruche, you will go to the center point where exists something called the Amareia flame, or the flame of Amareia, which meant the flame of love. It is the original expression of the first Manu field. It is the living, direct, open gate between the all that God is everywhere and the smaller manifestations of itself in space, time, and dimensionality. The inner Eka holds the Amareia flame on every level going down. And there are literally temples built that hold this gate. It is called a lock rather than a gate. It is a space that exists between gates. And in fact, when you look at a Cathara grid, it's between the, I don't have the number, when they get weird numbers when they go up. But if you look at a Cathara grid, this still down here has the basic 1 through 7 numbers on it, okay? Between 6 and 7 is the center point of the entire Cathara grid, all right? Now, they link to other ones at the 12-13 point, but the center point of each Cathara grid happens, it's a lock or a space between dimension 6 and dimension 7, or between these two positions. Now, this becomes the center point when they link together. One of these links down into one of those 4-cross center points at 13 and 12. So there's this link, this pillar of love, of the Amaraya frequencies, which were the original frequencies of God, living God intention. It's through there that the stream of consciousness is constantly pulsed in to manifestation, and when every one pulse of God consciousness comes into manifestation, it reciprocally triggers another pulse to come back up. So it self-regulates. We, things, beings, planets, universes ascend and descend and circulate through manifestation. This is the pattern that they do it through. When we get to the end of this workshop, we're going to learn why I'm introducing some of these things that really have to do with the Dance 4 program more than this, because we're in the middle of something on a universal level that our planet's going to be a part of. That's called the ARC project. They are anchoring the 12 root-shaped pillars into our planetary grids, because if they don't, this planet goes. And if this planet goes, being Universal Stargate 3, there's already corruption in some of the higher stargates. The whole thing goes. They're not going to allow that to happen. So we're a part of anchoring the arcs, which are pillars. The pillars were straight, but because of the flame of Amaraya, they draw toward it, and they form arcs of electrical consciousness. So they're electrical arcs of energy. They're not like arcs that you drive across water. But that whole story had a lot to do with that. Noah and the Ark, yeah. Big boat. So we're not going to be building big boats, by the way, in the ARC project. We're not going to get out there with our hammers and do our measurements and build our things that float on water. But we're building something even better. So I wanted you to understand the stairway. So you can have some idea of where what we're talking about is coming from. Who are we dealing with? Who is the Guardian Alliance as opposed to some of the other people that talk through channels out there? The Alliance comes all the way down through all of the matrices. The ones that can talk to us most clearly are the ones from our inner Eka worlds down here, who relay the messages from up the chain. All right, but there is a whole link, particularly through the center points, through the Eka universes, all the way down. These are the Iani people. They exist here, 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 here. They are the guardians of the center point gates. They are the guardians of the flame of Amaraya. And this is who we're dealing with. The reason they're talking to us is because this place is in trouble and we can do something about it. And we can help ourselves while helping the planet.